Hey everybody, it's Peter, and this is the 2025 Royal Enfield Bear 650. And if you've been watching my channel recently, you know I'm slowly, actually kind of quickly falling in love with Royal Enfield after ignoring them forever, since 1901, let's be honest. That's how long they've been around, continuously making motorcycles since 1901. They're the only bike manufacturer that has, although later on I'll be doing an Indian review. They've also been around since 1901, but not continuously. That's a whole other story. All right, so what we're going to talk about in this bike is who it's for, what it's about, and I think you're going to be surprised because Royal Enfield does make a lot of modern bikes that look retro, and compared to a lot of the retro bikes out there, this thing definitely has a more modern feel while keeping a really awesome style. The other thing is, if you know my channel, you know I bought the Himalayan 450. That's their most modern bike. It's liquid cooled, it's got a lot of different things. This one's not liquid cooled, but it does share some components with the Himalayan, including the dash, which is mostly the same, but it is a little bit different, and I'll explain those differences there. And we'll talk about why this thing is so unique and so cool, and it's got a bit of history to it. So it's also available in lots of paint schemes, lots of cool stuff. I was hoping to get the another model here, I think the 249. Ooh, it's got a lot of history to it. I won't get into the history until I get to that bike, but it is pretty cool. All right, let's start this review by taking a look, putting it into class, and then we'll start at the front wheel and go from there. I almost forgot to mention it off the top. I'm filming here at Rally Motoplex, and all of my Royal Enfield reviews and several of my other reviews are made possible by these guys here at Rally Motoplex. So make sure you give them a like, give them subscribe. I'm reviewing as many 2025 bikes as I can, and these guys really help complete the picture of a lot of brands that I couldn't get to before. So make sure you support them. There's 2 locations out here in the Maritimes. They're awesome, super knowledgeable team, really helpful, and I already bought a bike from them, so if I trust them, you can too. All right, so let's put this thing into class. This thing looks kind of like a standard bike, but it's a scrambler, and it looks maybe a little different than some of the other scramblers out there. A lot of modern manufacturers who make scramblers try to make them look retro, but they really don't come across quite like this one does. This one looks like a bike from the 60s or 70s or whatever you want, but it really is, again, modern in a lot of key places, and it is a 2025 bike. So to me, this one gives you a far more authentic retro view of what a scrambler is. And of course, like I said, it's got that history, that racing history from the 60s. But let's take a look at the front wheel. Let's go through this bit by bit and talk about what makes it kind of unique and how it's sort of set apart, and also about some of the cool technology in this bike. So if you've seen my reviews before, you know I love to take a look at the front wheel because that tells you the manufacturer's intent of the bike. And you know I said off the top that this has some similarities to my Himalayan. Now, one non-similarity is this front wheel. Although it is a spoked wheel, although it is somewhat designed for off-road, it is a 19-inch front wheel. The Himalayan has a 21-inch front wheel, so you're splitting the difference there. 17-inch rear, 19-inch front, whereas the Himalayan has a 17-inch rear, 21-inch front. So you still have some off-road capability here. Now I will say they look large. I don't know if it's the tread pattern or what it is about that, but they look pretty big. Certainly a sort of fatter tire. The tire itself, a lot of people think it's Pirelli Scorpion STR. It is not. There is, and it's not just a knockoff of that tire. It certainly has a similar style to it, but the tread depth is a little different. There are some differences here. It's designed to be a little bit better on road than that tire, but of course it's an off-road tire. Looks a little bit more aggressive than something on the Himalayan from the start. And again, tires, you can decide for yourself if that works for you, if that doesn't work for you. You do have Showa upside down forks here. Again, my Showa forks on my Himalayan are awesomely tuned, really good bike, fully modern suspension there. So again, for this retro style bike, the key things that matter, the suspension is one of the really big things. They're going to give you some quality components there. Large single disc brake on the far side here. Does have ABS on this bike, so all that stuff that I believe it has ABS. I'm sure it has ABS. You know what? I just assumed it has ABS because my Himalayan does. So we'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. But again, all the sort of modern type stuff when you see here, it's just the retro styling. Now, one thing that's kind of cool is the modern bikes have the short fairings here. This one's got a short fairing with a long extender, sort of a matte extender. Again, just some of the styling details they go through to give you the protection you would want, but also to give you kind of a unique style. Royal Enfield does style really well. It's the details that they do really, really, really well. So taking a look at the engine here, this is where Royal Enfield does things differently, especially in their sort of fully retro style bikes. They have this air oil cooled engine here. Now, a lot of modern bikes that are liquid cooled, everything's moved forward. It's about ultimate handling, ultimate weight distribution. It's about putting everything perfectly for the best possible handling and that kind of thing. But the reality is this bike's not really that heavy, and it is air cooled. It needs to be cooled. It's a parallel twin engine, so they leave some room around there for two things. One, it gives you that retro feel, that retro look. It's still fuel injected, so it's still a modern engine, but it is fully air cooled, and these are fully functional vents, or fully functional fins here. So you have that retro style with that space around it, which is also serving to help with function. So again, real retro feel here. A couple cool things I like. You've got the sort of black, it looks like plastic, at least on a lot of modern bikes it would be plastic, but that's a heat shield over here. And you also have the similar heat shield on the back on the muffler, which if you put some bags in the back, you can see there. We'll show you some bags you could throw on this later. You've got the option of keeping that heat off of that, and also off the rider's, the passenger's foot peg right there. So jumping across this bike, it's got a couple nice things that I really like. First of all, jumping across, the kickstand is not as low as it is on the Himalayans, so it is a little easier and lighter to pull up. It doesn't feel like the lightest bike in the world, but it doesn't feel heavy either. And again, that's partly the packaging we already talked about. It is definitely not intimidating. It's a little bit tall, and I think that's okay. You're getting some ground clearance there. You've got some suspension travel for a semi-off-road type bike. But again, I'm about 6 feet tall, and I can comfortably put my heels on the ground. So you've got a narrow enough front end here. The other nice thing is, despite this retro style tank, it has the modern flair with the indents here. So this is full width, and then it comes angled in and stays a little bit narrower. So when you get your feet on the pegs, you've actually got a fairly narrow, good spot to hug the tank with your legs, which gives you that feeling of control. You can see here you've got easy foot access to your brake lever there. And again, a very comfortable, rideable position. A couple things I like here. There's a little bar here, which should show you that. Just keeps your legs off those fins to keep you from getting too much heat. I don't have a real issue there, but it is something that's kind of nice to have. And you do have a bit of a stretch, a bit of a forward lean, so it has a little bit more of a sporty riding position than something like the Himalayan, although I'm sure it's also adjustable. You can lean these handlebars back and you can tweak things up. So you can make it fit you. I will say the seat, pretty comfortable, certainly retro styled, not overly huge again, so it's got that narrow kind of feel to it. Once you're sitting on the bike, the entire gas tank, engine, everything else feels narrow. So from the side, it looks pretty substantial, but from the top down, everything looks fairly narrow, and it feels narrow between your legs, and but you still have a wide handlebar to have control. So this is gonna allow you to get off-road with good off-road style handlebars that are gonna give you that feel, but it's also gonna be a comfortable bike, like a naked bike on the road, that's very comfortable for that. Taking a look at the seat here, it is a single piece seat. It does have a little bit of an up dent here, but there's no direct spot where it delineates between front seat and rear seat. So that's gonna allow you to move around and get some control, as well as just give you some comfort and spacing if you're taking it for a longer ride or something like that. It is gonna fit a passenger quite nicely. You've got a good size rear seat here. I see this bike as more of an individual rider. You can take someone around town, but if you're gonna head out on the dirt roads or something like that, it's kind of something that seems to me to be more playful, and having that space to sort of move around. It gives you that dirt bike kind of space to move around while still giving a more modern feel, and certainly a more comfortable seat. Now, you do have a couple things here. You've got some styling details. You do have a rear tail light here. It is a full LED light, so it sort of looks like a retro modern bike. You've got your rear rail here. You've got a little rail down here. I don't know if I can see that in the shot there. Yeah, you can see that in the shot. So you've got lots of rails, both to carry the bike around, lift the bike around, but also to strap some luggage to it, so you could do that. And again, Royal Enfield has some great accessories for all of their bikes. Now, I was trying to point out the gas tank. I don't know if you can see it on camera here, but a lot of bikes would have sort of more of a teardrop-y shape, which would come in. This fully indents right there, and it really fits your knees. And again, it just gives you that modern bike feel while still having that retro bike setting there. Speaking of modern bike feel, you do have that modern dash in this bike. I want to take a look at it and show you it, because it is slightly different in the way it functions in a couple of ways, and also in you know, how it works a little bit. But again, very similar dash to the Himalayan, which is a really good dash. All right, I'm going to be really clear about the one problem with this dash. First of all, you're seeing a lot of reflection on it. That's just the way the camera interacts with any TFT display. This is one that I've done my best to minimize the flicker. You will see a flicker on your screen. It's like no flicker at all in real life. It is a crystal clear dash in real life. I've tried to minimize that flicker as best as I can. It's just one of those things. It doesn't film all that well, and you'll notice that on especially riding reviews of anything with this dash. So first of all, what have you got here? First of all, you got the tachometer there. It turns to a red line. If you saw when I turned on, it turns to a red line as you hit the red line there. This is all identical looking to a Himalayan. You've got your odometer down here. There's the gold line is what they call it, and you can add stuff in here. So you can add usually be temperature up there. I think you can still add that here. 1207, you can add the outside temperature. At least you can on the Himalayan. I don't know about the temperature on this one. Odometer you can put here, trip odometer you can put here, that kind of stuff. And it tells you when your side stands down, kilometers per hour, neutral. The Himalayan does tell you when to shift with a little red arrow. It tells you to shift up for maximum fuel efficiency. I haven't tested that on this. The big thing with this bike though is all of this information can slide down and sort of take up just the lower third, and you can pair it to your cell phone and it actually works pretty well. You can pair it to your cell phone with Google Maps. Now your cell phone does have to stay on for that. For some people that's a real problem. I just buy a MagSafe battery pack, keep it in, and it works really well. It goes for a long, long time. That's what I recommend. And then your cell phone's in your pocket. You don't have to mount it up here and keep it ugly. But this is a pretty cool dash. Now one of the differences is, I'll show you in the controls here, but we'll just kind of cycle through here. So you've got your trip one there. This is identical. Ignore kilometers per liter. You can change it to liters per 100 kilometers, miles per gallon, all that kind of stuff. But ignore that because this bike hasn't traveled far enough to have a real fuel efficiency, and dealership bikes tend to idle a little bit. So there's trip 1, trip 2, you've got fuel range in here, you've got fuel consumption, you've got voltage, and you've got a service soon light below that. Now one thing this bike doesn't have is, because it's not liquid cooled like the Himalayan, it's not going to have the temperature gauge down there, and that does make me wonder if it has temperature settings at all, which is why I wonder if beside the clock, if there's no temperature there, if that might be just the settings on this bike. We could check that out here if we really wanted to, by just looking at things like appearance, trip preference, my vehicle. I think it's in my vehicle. So yeah, these are the things that we just went through in the menu. Trip 1, trip 2, fuel range, instant fuel efficiency, battery gauge, service due in is not checked, so we can have that checked. If you need service and that's not checked, it will come up for you, so you can set that all up as well. But it is kind of a nice dash to have. It's very easy to control with the joystick here. And then you have home button. Let's just go back up to let's go to that appearance, and we'll go to the golden line and see if we can get that in. So we've got the odometer down here. We could change that to trip 1, trip 2, and the outside temperature is listed. So where is the outside temperature? On my bike, it's right beside the kilometer, so it is checked. It should be up there somewhere, but I guess, I don't know. I don't see it. Maybe you guys do see it. All right, I want to show you how this works here. I should show you the background as well. We can change it between background, which is auto right now. Oh, of course, it's darker in here. So it is a white screen with everything white would be black that you see, and it can be inverted to the dark theme. So you can keep it as the dark theme all the time, or you can have a white theme during the day and it'll change to a dark theme only at night, or you can go dark theme all the time. Because it's darker up here, you get the dark theme. All right, let's show you quickly the controls now. So I've zoomed pretty far into this because, again, I'm dealing with a lack of light, but I want to show you here, the control is the same for your headlight, high beam there, low beam there, flash to pass right there. On the Himalayan, you have a gray button, so it's a little easier to film, which is nice for me, but doesn't make any difference to the rest of you. Over here is the home button. That is similar, it's a different button, but it's similar to the Himalayan, but there is a button missing. I'll talk about that in a second, compared to the Himalayan. So you have, again, the home button there to bring you back through menus. You have your lights, you have your signal lights here, right there, and they are full LED. Horn down here, and this joystick, left, right, up, down, it's a joystick, works pretty well to move you through your dash, and you can press to select and various things. So it is a handy little joystick, a lot like a Triumph. If you've driven a modern Triumph, it's a similar type setup to that. So that's this side. I want to show you the other side for a quick second because that's where the button is missing on this bike that you have on the Himalayan, and I'll explain why. So over here, throttle side, you've got your 4-way flashers right here, and then you've got the same style switch for your start, kill switch, and for the off right there. So that's fine. That's the same thing, just a little different. It's a matte finish on the Himalayan, but because you have this different style hazard warning light type thing, there's, oh wait, I think I just found it. There is a button on the trigger side. That's the difference there. So the trigger side, and this is what I was going to get to, brings your dash down to look like this. On the Himalayan, there's a thumb button for your, right where your flasher lights are, there's a thumb button for your ride modes, and if you hold it down, it goes to here. Now on this one, you can hold down a separate entire button to switch between this mode here that you see and this mode that we've already seen before. So the reason you would want to switch to this secondary mode, it does give you more of a digital dash if that's what you like, but one of the key things is you can hook up Google Maps to things through your cell phone, and again, you get a little bit more detail for some of your trips. All this stuff is the same as before with a little extra detail, but if you go back up to the top, you can switch between your maps. So you've got stored alerts there, but over here you would have a Google Maps system on the top, which goes through your phone. So again, you can flick to it quickly. I thought you couldn't because I didn't see that button there for a second here, but you just hold the button on the right throttle and it goes through there. The other thing I should point out, both clutch lever and brake lever have quick adjustments, so you can adjust them for reach, which is a nice thing to have as well. So let's talk about who this bike is for, and this is where it's interesting because with a bike like this, on some level, you're paying for style. And what's interesting is you can pay a whole lot more for style and it doesn't look as good as this. Royal Enfields are inexpensive bikes to buy. And I looked at the classic 350 just off camera here last week, and I absolutely fell in love with that bike. It's just, there's so many details to the style, and this bike's the same way. It's got so many little details to the style that it's just visually interesting from absolutely any angle, especially as you get close and see it in person. Some of that stuff's hard to show on camera, so I didn't really show a lot of the style on person. If you want to see some of that style, we'll come back to this bike again. I did show you the technology though, and that's where it's interesting because you're also paying for a level of technology, and some of these retro bikes go so retro that you don't get some of the stuff you need. One thing that can really ruin a retro bike is sticking a big ugly quad lock on there with a big ugly phone on there that doesn't look retro at all. So what's cool about this is you can keep your phone in your pocket, you can get your Google Maps up there, you've got enough of the information you need, but you can clear it out so you don't have to look at it the whole time. You still got the analog tack that looks retro, and again, this is very much a resto mod kind of feel to it with the LED lights, modern lighting, with the modern dash, but again, a truly retro feel to everything here. The other thing that's nice is the 650 doesn't have power complaints like some of the other retro bikes in the Royal Enfield lineup. A 650cc parallel twin, this thing's torquey, it's got all the power you need. Is this bike designed for the highway? Well, of course it can do the highway, but it's gonna be awesome for any other road you want. The back roads, that kind of thing. And let's be honest, if you're buying a scrambler or you're buying a naked bike of any kind, you're gonna be on those secondary highways and the back roads, and with this one, onto those dirt roads and gravel roads as well. And this bike will handle it all. It's built for it, it's built like a tank kind of thing, but it's built to handle all that stuff, but it's also got that style. You can just take it down to your local cafe and have one of the coolest looking bikes there. It really is cool to see in person, and it's inexpensive to buy. I mentioned I was gonna show you some bags. Let me just quickly show you an example of bags you could throw on this that are just sitting just off camera, because you can kind of decorate this up any way you want with Royal Enfield accessories that really fit it. So let me just quickly show you them and then we'll wrap up. This is just a piece of the accessory wall for the Royal Enfield stuff, and again, these are branded Royal Enfield. Hopefully you can see that in the center. Well, you probably can't see it, but they are branded Royal Enfield, and that's just an example. Maybe these don't fit your style, maybe they don't fit the bike, but it's again, another example of just throwing retro style stuff on here that fits the look of the bike and makes it look super cool, but also adds practicality to the bike. So whether this is a bike for you or whether it's not, Royal Enfield is a company we need to now watch because they are really injecting a level of competition into the motorcycle industry that we haven't seen in a long, long time. They've got great looking bikes, they've got great prices, and you're seeing big manufacturers looking to bring some of their manufacturing to India as well, probably to compete price-wise with bikes like these, which is interesting because you're getting a whole lot for the price of this bike. One cool thing about Royal Enfield, of course, they started in the UK, they moved to India. A lot of people don't realize they have another UK design center right now with, I think it's 200 plus engineers in the UK design center. In addition to their Indian design center, they have a whole lot going on, and they are rapidly growing. They made over 1 million bikes last year. This is a company that's going to challenge all of your favorite brands, and if you look at this bike and you look at some of the other scramblers out there, this one offers a pretty compelling package, especially for the price. So there you go. There's my review of the Royal Enfield Bear 650. Again, check out those colors online, lots of cool stuff. And again, if you want to see it in person, there's a link in the description to Rally Motors. These guys carry it here in the Maritimes, and a very cool brand that is well worth watching.